this stuff does a great job at pointing out growth points, showing you where you are, giving you some of the whys and wherefores of why you are where you are, and then helping give you some tools for growth.
Hello again, and welcome to the Trim the Wick podcast. I'm Dan.
And I'm Becky.
And we are here with you again. Happy 2025.
The brand new year.
We've made it. Who would have thought, 2025, like when we were in school, it was in the 80s, and then we got married, it was the early 90s. I mean, we were excited to see 2000.
Well, we weren't sure if we were going to live through that one, right? The whole Y2K thing.
I know. Microsoft going to shut down the entire world with Y2K. But no, I mean, it was like, it just seemed like it was so far away to think of 2000. Now it seems like, holy cow, we're at 2025.
We're a quarter of a century past 2000, right?
It's just kind of crazy.
We're dating ourselves now.
Yeah, okay. But a new year brings new things and excitement of what's to come. And one of the things that we talked about last year and that we shared with you listeners is that we have teamed up with the John Maxwell leadership team. And it's a way that we can more effectively help people do the things that we feel like God's called us to do. Right.
Because, those of you that have been with us a while heard all of our whys and wherefores of why we founded Trim the Wick. And the short version of that is God's called us to help the body of Christ to recognize who they are, cut away the stuff that's the old charred things, and allow new oil to flow so that they burn brightly in the world. And part of that is knowing who you are and who you were created to be, and beginning to identify in yourself that stuff that needs to be cut away and those things that really need to shine through.
Yeah. And, the thing is that there's been such an attack on our personal identity and who we are. In society right now, it's this whole thing of, I don't like who I am, so I can change it from everything. So God created us in a way and created us in a purpose for what he has for us. And getting to understand that better, getting to understand how God created us, I think helps fulfill us.
Yes.
So we're not always looking, okay, well, what's the next thing or what's around the corner? But it's always that thing, I believe, where it's like it helps us to walk into who we actually are and how
it helps us to understand the individual uniqueness of how we were created. We're not striving to be somebody else. That set of personality traits or that set of skill sets, that's what's really popular and in vogue right now. And so I'm going to strive to be that thing. No, be the thing that you were created to be.
Right. And you get to just see how you can walk confidently and who you are. And that's one of the things that I see here with this DISC assessment that we do and that we are using for people we are working with and anyone who wants to know more about themselves for better personal development, better leadership, better just life and relationships.
Finding the job that suits you better, finding the people that you bring into your circle that are going to mesh well with you and learning to mitigate the disagreements with those who don't, right?
Well, and that's another thing is that, conflict is just a part of life.
Right.
But being able to handle conflict well and being able to put that in a situation in a direction for resolution instead of something that you carry for the rest of your life, that is huge. And
and it all begins right here with knowing who you are.
Exactly.
And this DISC test really assists in that.
Right. So to give a quick little background of DISC, what DISC is it comes out of years and years of psychological development, personality development that goes back hundreds, thousands of years. And not to bore you with a history lesson, we're not that type of podcast. So in the 1920s, a gentleman named William Marston, there was a lot of this psychological study on the abnormal brain and the abnormal mind. And he said, you know what? I want to do the study on the normal brain and the normal mind and when people are actually functioning. And so he did a full study and a full understanding of this. And what he came up with is that people are very different, but they are,
No.
yeah, people are very different, but they are predictably different. And that you can break it down to 4 different things. And what he broke it down was to dominance, influence, steadiness, and compliance. And that's where you get the DISC.
Makes
And
sense.
yeah, and each one of those is a different personality trait that your strength is. Now, each person is made up of all 4 of these. You are going to be stronger in one than the other, but every one of them will appear in your life or in your personality at some point. So it's not like a thing like you're in a box
Right.
and that, okay, you're a C person, so that's all you are. And you can't be anything else but a C.
So there's a parallel there to spiritual giftings, right?
Exactly.
That those of us who are believers should have the capacity to function in all of the spiritual giftings, but we've got strengths.
Yes.
And
Yeah, and you have strengths and you have weaknesses. And when we're looking at these things and breaking it down, these are our strengths and weaknesses. So when you're a D, you're a dominant person. You are what we would call an alpha type person. That's kind of like the fewest part of people
right.
are that type personality. And these are your no nonsense, give me the bullet points. I'm making a decision. I'm taking over. I'm the one in charge. That's the D type person. Now, an I type person is, more of your influencer type person. These are your put the camera on, let me talk, let me do an oral report,
The people that people are drawn to.
Exactly. Those are your people who light up a room. Those are the ones that you make sure when you have a party, you invite them because they're going to make it fun. Then you've got the S people who are going to be your more steady people. Now, this is the majority of all people is in the S category. It's about 70% of people are S's or have strong S's. And the S is they're a individual, they're your great team player, they're your hardworking people. They're the ones that are going to support everything that's going on. They're the ones that are going to be friendly. They're the ones that love to have coffee together and sit and, read a book together. Those type people. Those are your strong S people. Then you have your C people, and your C people are your people that critical is what they is tagged, but what it really is, or compliant, what it really is that those are the ones that can look at the numbers and they crunch numbers. They're the ones that can look at plans and they make plans. They make processes. They're the ones that are going to be your engineers and your mathematicians. They're going to be your actual social construct people. They're the ones that are going to be able to put it all together. So every person in a group, in a team, in a family even, all of the different parts are going to have to play for it to succeed.
Right.
But you have personal strengths and weaknesses and all of these indicators and all of these different styles. So you, Becky, were our great guinea pig and got to do this for us.
Yeah.
And what we're going to do is we're going to go over your report, and we're not going to go into everything. So if you were to purchase one of these reports from us, I would do a debrief with you, just like I'm doing here with Becky. And I would go through kind of page by page through this report, because you're going to get a 30-page report.
Yeah, it's an extensive report, y'all. I was surprised.
Yeah, it's not one of these things like, oh, you like, fluffy dogs type report. Right. This is a very in-depth report. It's 30 to 31 pages of a lot of information. And so I work with you through that and break it down. So what we thought, because Becky took the report, we thought we would kind of share with you a little bit of the debrief. We're going to go over some of the highlights, not everything, but we're going to go over some of the highlights. of the report and stuff. So if you were wanting to do this, this would be something that you can kind of expect. You know, it
Right.
wouldn't. It's not going to surprise you.
This is what it's going to look like.
Yeah, because a lot of people, when you say, "Oh, you took a behavior analysis report," they're like, "Oh, what's that?" You know, am I just going to be looking at ink blots and all kinds of stuff?
Right. Well, and that was one of the things going in, because in my past, I've done the Myers-Briggs personality reports back in school. I've been through, any of us that have been to any level of college, we've all done your personality studies, where they go, oh, this is the track that you should really take, or this is the career that's really right for you, those kinds of analysis tests. And those are long form tests, and they ask lots and lots of questions. A lot of them are multiple choice, and you find yourself kind of going, ugh, I don't know what's the right answer here. And I was kind of, to be honest, I've heard you talk about the test, but I hadn't seen the test until I took it. There was a sense of intimidation as I approached it.
Right.
I was kind of like, oh, I've been through some of these before, and it's tough.
It's tedious.
It's tedious, and it's tough, and it's long, and I don't know if I'm doing it right. And is it really, all of those things are running through your head. Got to tell you guys, not tough at all.
Right.
It's very straightforward laid out. They give you sets of 4 different groupings of words. So it's like each little block, they've put blocks, and each little block has 4 choices in it. And each choice has 2 adjectives: this and this, or this and this, or this and this, or this and this. And all you have to choose of that set of 4 is most or least. That's it. Most or least. Out of these 4, most or least. What is it to you? That's all that the test is.
Right.
It's not intimidating. It's not long. It took me, about 10 minutes?
Yeah. It usually takes about 10 to 15 minutes.
Because there were other things going on in our household at the time, I sat down in the living room, put my headphones in so I wasn't distracted, and did it.
Yeah.
And it was no big deal. So if you have intimidation with test taking and that's going to dissuade you from doing this, there is none of that with this test. It's very straightforward. You don't sit there pondering, well, is there a right answer and a wrong answer? No, it's just simply an evaluation from your perspective, which is most, which is least, move to the next set.
Yep. And I think that's the thing is I talk to people and they go, well, I was confused because both answers were right. And I go, well, you're to choose the one that was most right. And they were like, well, yeah, that's what I did. And I was like, well, that's the test. That's exactly, sometimes you're going to read where both things are like, oh, yeah, both of these fit. But what one fits most? And that's where it really, I don't know how the computer algorithm and all that sort of stuff works on this and on that, but it's pretty amazing how it breaks it down and takes the answers that you take. And you're, like I said, when he built this whole thing, it's a predictable, we're different, but we're predictably different. And
so how accurate is it?
Yeah. So
let's see.
Let's get into this. So Becky took the test and we got her report and we got it right here in front of us. So we're going to look at it real quick. The first thing on the report is you're going to see is that it is the style that Becky is. And Becky is a precisionist CS, which means that she's a high C. And then her second thing is that she is an S. Now, what does that mean? Okay, what does that mean and how do we understand that? How do we even see that? So there is a group of 3 charts that it will break out when you take the assessment and when you get the assessment. You're going to get 3 charts. And in the 3 charts is a chart that is your public self, private self, and perceived self. And the one we usually focus on first is the one in the middle. And for Becky, her private self, this is your core. This is kind of like, this is how you were born. This is your muscles. This is your basic, your growing up environment, your, what you have basically inside of you.
This is your innate stuff. Yeah.
And so you were an elevated D, a low I, an elevated S, and a high C. So that is your basic, that is your private, that is the core of who you are. The thing is also is that usually if you're in a stressful situation, that is what's going to come out of you.
You revert to what's innate, right?
Exactly.
It's the old adage of when you're squeezed, what's in you is what comes out.
Exactly. So that's what's going to come out. So when you're squeezed, you're going to be a high C and an elevated S. Then graph number 3 is your perceived self. This is the mirror. This is the graph that display to people around you. This is your typical behavior. These are the muscles that you work out. Okay, this is what you focus on. So you focus on, again, you have a midline D, a lower I, an elevated S, and a not so elevated C. So it's not as much as your private self. So, but what you see is that your I has come up a little bit.
Right.
So that is something that you've worked on. So the I is an influencer. The I is the public speaker. The I is the person that is, life of the party, type person. Also, it's a person that makes decisions more on feeling. That's what you've worked on. So you've actually increased one of your weaknesses to make it a little stronger. But you still see you're an S and a C. So your actual precisionist CS comes from that chart. Okay. Comes from that one.
To give you guys kind of an idea, that private self chart for me looks very much like a check mark.
Right.
Okay, so it's a DISC. My lowest by far is the I. It's significantly depressed, so it makes a pretty good deep check mark.
Right.
On that perceived self side, it's still kind of a check mark, but that angle has opened way out.
Right.
And it's closer to a flat line than it is to a deep check mark.
Right. And then let's go all the way to this is the public self. This is the mask. This is what you think you need to be like for your environment. Okay. This is your perception of how you believe you behave. And your perception is that your D is actually center line again. Your I now is elevated.
Which makes sense because I work with people a lot.
Yep.
I have to, I work with clients one-on-one every single day. We do a podcast.
Yep.
We do public teaching. So absolutely, my public self has to be stronger in that I than I actually really feel. So now y'all know the mask has come off for a minute.
There you go.
I do that with a significant amount of discomfort and fear and trembling that hopefully people don't see as much.
Right. And you understand, and you can see it. I mean, it's right there on the charts. And then your S is midline, just like it is for all 3 of them, basically. And your C, believe it or not, has come down. So one of the things that you're doing there is you're actually diminishing your strengths. And the reason why you're probably doing that is because you are overemphasizing the I. So you're not being critical. You're not being overly accurate. You're not being overly pushy and things like that. So you're actually pushing that down so you can raise up your I to be more interactive, influential. Okay.
From a parenting perspective, I can give you a really clear example of where that has come into play. So you guys are starting to see some of the accuracy here. So this graph for me, where my other 2 graphs looked like deep check marks or a more flatline check mark, this one is the opposite. This one looks like an upside down check mark. Mm-hmm. And it's more deeply upside down. Like the amount that my innate, my private self see is high above the 0 line. In my public self, it's that low below this.
Right.
It's literally inverted.
Right.
And in parenting, I can tell you that through parenting 4 kids and recognizing that I am a person who, and I'm sure we'll get into some of the traits of all of these, but I am a person who greatly values that methodical approach to things. My side of the closet, my clothes are hung by type of clothing. Mm-hmm. And then within each subset of type of clothing, they're hung by color.
Right.
and they are all facing the same direction.
Yep.
That's just how I do the thing. As a mom, you would lose it on your kids if you expected your 5, 6, 15, 18-year-old
Right.
to arrange their clothing that way in their so I've had to squash some of that and raise up the influencing part.
Right.
Listen, I just want you to have clean clothes and I want you to put your clothes away. But you know what? You find a system that works well for you. But I absolutely have systems in my world.
Yep. And that's part of that's exactly who you are when you see this.
Yeah.
And how you operate. So here's the thing of your CS personality is that you're going to exhibit precise, detailed, stubborn nature.
What?
You're a systematic thinker who tends to follow procedures, both personal and in your work life.
Yep.
You act in a highly tactful, diplomatic manner, very concerned with avoiding risk or trouble. Here's your strengths. You're a good scholar, which you love to learn.
I was a 4.0 student when I was doing student-y things.
You organize things. You're analytical, good-natured, conscientious.
Conscientious.
That's a good
there
word.
You go.
You're detail-oriented and you're very accurate. Here's some of the weaknesses, though, that this carries, is that you can be easily discouraged. You can be a negative thinker. You're prone to depressive thoughts and may have inner turmoil. And you can be stubborn. So these are all things that, again, you're not going to be all of these things, but these are some of those things where those are your strengths and weaknesses that you could fall into.
And as we're going through this, one of the things, you've said stubborn a couple of times, you've said, which are things I recognize in myself. One of the keys with this is to recognize that when you're going through your debrief and your weaknesses are pointed out, the purpose of this is not to point out your weakness and shame you for them.
Right.
It's so that you have the awareness of who you are and so that you can see it in yourself. But none of this is to capitalize and highlight those weaknesses.
Right.
It's to capitalize on and highlight your strengths so that you can lean harder into who you really are and where you are strong.
Exactly. So going back to the 3 charts, your strength is CS. And those are the things that you really should be focusing on to strengthen those things because that's who you are. That's not the mask.
Where currently, right now, what I'm doing in my public self is really playing down who I am. And that's, we've had those conversations that it's hard because of background, because of history, because of a role as a wife and a mom and a church member and a church leader and things like that over the years. There are places where it has not felt okay to be who I am. But the part of what this test is for is to go, hey, this is where you're strong.
Right.
Remember that God carefully and deliberately knit you together as who you are. Don't diminish who you are. Play to it.
Right. Build it up. Strengthen it.
So welcome to 2025, y'all. You get to be with me as I learn to play to this. That's right.
That's right. So going back to the report here, the next few pages is talking more in depth about your behavior style. You're going to get a lot more information. We're not going to go into all of this because there are some personal things there, but it's great for you to read. I've read probably page 5 about 10 times. If you turn to page 6, it's the next one. It talks about some historical characters who you match. Your personality style matches their personality style. And that's a pretty good group.
Well, and guys, listen, that's an encouragement because like on mine, I got people like Ludwig van Beethoven and Leonardo da Vinci. They aren't slouches.
Yeah, that's a good team to be on.
One of the really encouraging things about this as I was personally reading through my report is that a lot of that conscientiousness that is a part of me, a lot of that I want to know that things are done a certain way and are done correctly and are thought through well. From other people that has been like, can you just loosen up a little bit? Can you relax? and let it be what it's going to be. And I have learned that there is a balance to be struck there for sure. It does, that perfectionist thing is something that I have struggled with in life, and that God has really helped me go, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you do need to make progress. Simultaneously with recognizing that, you need to recognize that who you are, whatever your disc comes back as, whatever your innate traits are, you were beautifully and wonderfully made, and you are in good company with amazing people throughout history. Don't think ill of who God designed you as.
Right.
So that was a real encouragement as I was reading through this.
Yes. And as we continue to go through the things, you're going to see the more and more encouragements that come, because that's one of the purposes of this, is to help focus you on those things that you're strong on, and to encourage you to walk in those things. So on the next page, you're going to see another big thing. It's some more information about understanding your style. But on the one side, there are 3 boxes, and it's general characteristics, which we've talked a lot about already, what you're motivated by. And this is one that when I talk to folks and do their debrief, I really focus on, because what motivates you is huge, because that's how you achieve things.
Right.
That's how you get things done, is being properly motivated. We know that fear, we know that the opposite things to our likes does not motivate us. We need to be motivated by the things that fall basically into our strike zone, right down the lane for us, so it's easy to understand and easy to be digested, I guess is the right word. So your motivational things are recognition for loyalty and dependability, approval of their high quality of work, orderliness and neatness, and activities to start and to see it through the end. And that is a big one right there, because many people start activities and they don't finish, or they don't start an activity understanding what the end point is. But for you, having activity, it is something that you need resolve in.
Yes.
You need to have it completed. So when as an I person, I'm a free, just walk in, whatever. Hey, let's just go and get in the car and go in a direction. In our communication with each other, for you to feel comfortable, for you to be motivated for this trip or for this thing, you need to understand a little bit of, okay, well, what is going to be the end? What are we going to end at? Are we just going willy-nilly into a direction, or is there an end thing? And because you are going to be much more motivated when you know that there's an end, when you know that there is a process, not just a shooting in the dark type situation. Right. So, and that's not just for casual things, but that's for you working in business, you doing things in the family, is that you need to make sure that your motivators are being able to see things through the end.
And I see that in my emotional response and my frustration level with things. Definitely, I hate an unfinished task.
Right.
I'll stay up until 3 a.m. to get something done, just so that I don't go to bed knowing that I've got to face that in the morning.
Yep.
So that's absolutely something that motivates me. One of the things that kind of surprised me in that motivated by is the approval of the high quality of work and recognition for loyalty and dependability, because I have often said, I don't need approval. I don't need to be recognized. I don't need the pats on the back. I don't need the public acclaim. In fact, please don't. I don't like being the center and spotlight. But the reality is that deep down somewhere, if I put myself out and do something and really do an excellent job of it and nobody notices, that hurts.
Yeah. Yep.
But that's something that was a kind of a, hey, this is who you are. It's okay to acknowledge that you like it when people notice.
Yeah. And it's not a bad thing. And again, that's understanding who you are. And again, understanding that you need this. Yeah. This is actually a core thing deep down that you need. Now you can say all you want. Oh, I don't need that. That's your mask.
Yep.
I don't need this. I don't need.
I'm fine being a lone wolf.
But
It's okay.
You need it.
Yeah. That was kind of that was one that I had to chew on for a little bit when I read my report. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, I kind of do like having it noticed when I've done a good job.
So there's another box under that, and it's called My Ideal Environment. And these are the ideal environments that you work the best in. Okay. Now, it doesn't mean you can't work in other environments. It doesn't mean that, you need to quit your job because it's not this. This is your ideal. This is the thing that would basically, again, be in your strike zone. This is the thing that's in your swing. Which,
again, doesn't mean you need to quit your job, but if you're in a position where you're looking to change jobs,
yes,
consider this as you're looking for a new place to go. Okay, this is kind of the ideal that I'm looking for.
Right. Don't just take jobs because money or whatever.
Right.
There is so much more to your work environment than just being paid and stuff. So let's go through these real quick. Practical procedures and systems.
Yeah, we've already talked about that with the closet. That is me.
Stability and predictability.
Yep.
Neat and orderly. And then here's one that you might have been surprised on, a team atmosphere. But deep down,
I love a good collaboration.
You need a good collaboration of people and a team atmosphere where everyone's working together.
Well, and one of the, just an immediate thing that comes to mind with that, years ago, I was asked to be on the board of a nonprofit group. The stated reason that I was asked to be on that board was because I was good at listening to everybody around the table and then pulling all of it together into a concise, we were writing standard operating procedures for the nonprofit. And I was able to really listen to everybody all the way around and go, okay, this is what's valuable here. This is what's valuable here. This is the strategy we need there, and put it into an SOP package that was really solid and workable for the nonprofit. So I thrive in a team atmosphere.
Yep.
I love that.
Well, and that's part of that S coming out, because that's a big thing that the S personality is they like groups, they like communication, they like to hang out together. So being a C with the S, that adds to that.
Mm-hmm. And yet simultaneously, I'm a low I. So under stress, I tend to want to retreat. I need my quiet time.
Yep.
So.
All right. So on the next page here, we start getting into your communication style. And these are so exciting because everybody I've ever done a debrief with, the communication thing is something that they just go, wow, okay, this is something I either didn't know, or this tells me so much about myself. Oh, and other people. You get to actually look a little bit about other people too on this. But you can see in this, it talks about, your basic things that as a precisionist, that CS personality you want. Again, it talks about your greatest fear real quick.
I'm going to address that real quick because y'all, honestly, this greatest fear thing kind of took me back, because it says that my greatest fear is being criticized, especially by a close friend or relationship. And I would have told you, no, that doesn't bother me at all. I can go toe to toe with anybody,
Right.
But I don't want to go toe to toe. And I certainly I like peaceful relationships. I like hearing and being heard. I don't like for the people that I love to not like things about me.
Right.
That hits hard if I'm honest about it. But I don't know that I would have put words to that.
Yeah.
Without this.
Yeah. It's really interesting to see when you look at it and then you start thinking about it and you go, oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. I see that. I understand that now.
And that's one of the things that I kind of want y'all that are thinking about doing a disc to know, is that this is not just a thing to go, okay, this is how you function. It's a thing to really help you think about and understand and discover things about yourself that you may not have fully thought through.
Right.
You've just been functioning in a way for years and years and years and years. And it's just kind of, it's who you are, but you don't recognize what that is in you.
Right.
And this helps you point some of those things out.
Exactly. So,
Okay, so
on this page, there's a couple more things here. Actually, there's a lot on here.
yes, there is.
But it's when communicating with Becky. So this would be this is your ideal communication style. So if you sat down with someone and you wanted them to talk to you, this is how that person should talk to you.
And this is where it's really awesome to be having your husband reading this, because, now you know.
Well, and here we go as a little plug in here. We do this with couples.
Yes.
And where each person, the husband and wife, takes the test, and we'll do a debrief, but we also do a combination together with coaching to make sure that it helps build communication in that relationship. And you get to see, because, sometimes it's just I didn't even know that. And sometimes, you didn't even know it about yourself. So this is great stuff for a couple, not just an individual, but for couples as well.
Yeah, you sit there and go, oh, I thought I was doing really good, but I'm actually kind of stepping on your toes with how I'm communicating with you, right?
Yep. So if you would like to do this as a couple, let us know. We'll definitely hook you up. All right. So these are the communication styles that you like. You want to express genuine interest in them as a person, provide clarification for the tasks and answers to all the how questions.
Yes. Okay, guys, I drive people nuts with the, no, but I want you to flesh this out for me.
Yep.
Okay, you've given me a thing, but tell me how.
Right. Clarify, define goals, procedures, and their role in the overall plan. If I was coming to you as another person in the office and we were working together on a team, this would be the way I would want to address you, so that you would receive everything that I'm saying. So you would understand everything that I'm saying. So yeah, that's super important.
And I can speak to a couple. So the one where it says, I prefer having people to communicate with me in a favorable environment. I don't like stressed out, rushed, I'm in between tasks and you grab me.
Right.
And say, hey, I need to talk to you about, no, because I'm task-oriented right now. I'm facing this thing and I'm transitioning to that thing. If you want to talk to me, let's do that. But this is not a favorable environment for that. I can't focus on you.
Right.
Which is a lot of fun when you have 4 kids, because they're pulling you in different directions. But this is my preferred. That second point, where I prefer to have people express a genuine interest in me as a person.
Right.
I despise being seen as a skill set.
Right.
I don't want you to come to me because I'm proficient or because I'm capable. I have actually said to people who have said, you're so capable. I'm like, shut up, take that back.
Right.
Because I got tired of being told what I could do for somebody instead of being seen as who I was.
Right.
And so that's a big one for me. If you're going to communicate with me, I want you to know that I'm a human being.
Yeah.
First and foremost, I'm a person. And then we can talk about where we can collaborate on tasks or where we can.
So there.
Yeah, it's vitally important to me.
Yep. So let's go to the next section here, where it says, when communicating with Becky, these are the do nots, which you just spoke a lot about, being pushy, overly aggressive or demanding, being confrontational or critical of their actions, making sweeping or sudden changes.
Oh yeah, I don't do well with that.
Yeah. Or to expect them to make decisions without all the facts. And that's a biggie.
It is a biggie.
Your D individual is usually just give me the highlights and I'll make a decision, because they're decision makers.
Right.
A C individual, they want to know all the facts. They want to know all the ramifications. They want to know all the if-thens before they make decisions. So, yeah.
Which that paralyzes me sometimes. I do sometimes get analysis paralysis, where I'll sit there and go, I can't make a decision on this because I don't know enough. But at some point you have to just go ahead and make the decision. And that's where you and we're a good team on that, because you'll give me space to analyze and help. There's sometimes where you want to jump in and just do the thing. And I'm like, whoa. Let's think at least a little bit about this. And we've kind of found over the years, that mid ground of letting me have enough information to where I'm comfortable, but also not driving you nuts with dragging my feet too much.
Right. So there's a few more things on this page, and we're not going to go over all of them. We're going to keep going. We're going to go to the next page because it just continues to go, because it talks about your value to a group and the positive things that you bring to group and group work. Because a lot of people think because you're a C personality that you don't like to be in a group. But the actual is that you bring a lot to a group. Reliable, steady, loyal, analytical with processes and procedures. And trust me, if you've ever done something and it's just a mess, you realize that they had no process or procedure in place.
Right.
So you need to have that individual who really looks at those things and brings that to the team.
I am so heavy on the processes and procedures and this has been, excuse me, this has been one of the things that before we got involved with Maxwell, we were starting to have conversations around this, but it's really been highlighted since you've been doing work with Maxwell that this process and procedures thing that is just literally innate nature to me. Mm-hmm. I'm like, but how can they not see?
Right.
That this is a repetitive thing that you do every day and you don't have a process for this. Why don't you have a process for this? It would streamline everything. That's been a revelation to me that is a unique wiring of who I am. That not everybody has that. This thing where it's like, well, that's just common sense. No, it's not common sense. It's how God designed me.
Yes. Because I'm not a process and procedure person.
I know that.
Yeah. So the precisionists will bring to a group. They are quality control, methodical, able to give common sense, right there, and practical viewpoints. Yeah, so there's a lot there, and there's so much more that we're just kind of skimming right off the top. We're not even going in real deep here. But here also on this page, there's some personal growth things and some things we've already talked about that. But again, here's some more stuff that I get to just build you, to make you better, to focus you on your personal development. And a lot of these we've already talked about.
But I'm going to read all of these personal growth areas that it's given me. I'm just going to do a quick bullet point read down on them because I want you guys to hear that when you get this report, we touched on it briefly earlier, that the weaknesses are not points of condemnation.
Right.
The personal growth points are not, you need to rigidly hold to these things and you need just get better, you.
Right.
It's not that. These are encouragements and they are points of information for you to then think about what are your processes? Where do you want to? So the personal growth points that it gave me are to be more open to change and develop more flexibility, which is something that has been a conscious thing for years. Having kids will do that to you. Wanting to keep a marriage for 33 years will do that to you. But there's always room to grow. Mm-hmm. Being more readily open to change is probably where I'm at now. I'm at the place now where change doesn't scare me anymore. I know that adaptation and that's in my wheelhouse. I can do that.
Right.
But doing it quickly is still a thing.
Yes.
So that's a place where I can grow. Be more direct in your interactions and show more initiative in team roles. That is absolutely a point of growth for me, because I do value and want the approval of people. I hold my tongue a lot. Mm-hmm. A lot, where there are things when I'm like, no, that's not going to be beneficial. You're going to run into a roadblock there, or that's not quite actually true. So you're going to be starting your actions on a false premise. But I don't want to criticize anybody because of externals, any type of critical thinking has been seen as bad in certain circles that I've been in.
Right.
And so I'm gonna spiritualize this for just a minute, guys, and I'm not making apologies for it. Overcoming a critical spirit has been a theme in lots of church settings that I've been in, and that is valid. We do not need to be accusing each other. We do not need to be picking out faults and pointing out problems in everybody else. But a critical spirit, being nasty and critical and nitpicky towards others, is not the same. as having a discerning spirit that understands that there is proper criticism
Right.
of actions or things. So I have been very indirect in my interactions a lot of times, sometimes to the point of silencing myself. And that's a point of growth that I need to work on.
Mm-hmm.
And show more of that leadership type initiative in a team role,
Right.
instead of just sitting back and going, well, I have things to say, but I do sometimes find myself in a place where I go, well, it's if I speak up, what I'm saying is literally opposed to what everybody else around the table is saying. And so I'll just go with the group.
Right.
And sometimes that's not good for not only me, but it's not good for the group, because God put me together this
Exactly.
way to bring that discernment to the group.
Exactly.
So be more direct in your interactions. Focus on overall goals of the team rather than specific procedures. Again, that analysis paralysis we talked about. Deal with confrontation constructively, right? Always, and we did a series on this last
Yep.
year, that conflict should always be with a goal to resolve. So,
Yep.
and gain understanding. Increase my pace to accomplish goals. Yep, that's a thing. And work at expressing my thoughts, opinions, and feelings. Again, not the self-silencing. It's okay.
Right.
I am a C. I am an S. I do bring this to the table, and I do have thoughts and feelings. And while I am a good listener, I need to give others the benefit of the doubt that maybe they can be a good listener for me too.
Right. Yep. And it's, again, there's your growth.
Yeah.
That's how you're going to keep moving forward. The next couple pages are, again, even more in depth on growing yourself, learning more about who you are, as in, and building up on those strengths, understanding a little bit more about the disc. So the next page here, we're going to look at page, it's 11.
Okay, guys, do you see this? We are about 45 minutes into this podcast, and we're on page 11 of a 31-page report. Do you see what you're getting with this? This is extremely in-depth.
Yes. And so now it's nice because there's a little section here of communicating with others. Remember earlier, a couple pages earlier, we talked about how you like to be communicated with. Mm-hmm. Now it kind of breaks it out on how you can communicate with others, and have their own different approaches and different things and characteristics. So it shows that there. If you could go to the next page, again on page 12.
Okay. Quick bullet point on that graph that gives me how to communicate with others. Mm-hmm. For a person like me, vital.
Yeah.
Because processes and procedures, right?
Yep.
Okay, if I identify you as this, I've got some tools now. I know how to approach you, so I can more confidently go ahead and speak up, because I know I'm not going to necessarily speak up in a way that's going to break communication, but that's going to foster it.
Yes. So on the next page, it even goes into some more in depth on how you share, how you talk, how you use your words. So again, one of the big things of DISC is building better communication. Mm-hmm. And that's what this is focusing on, and helping you understand how your style matches up to others. If we continue on to the next page, there's even more information on this. So it's very in depth on this to help you understand your communication style to others and how others speak to you, deepening your ability to not just talk to each other, but to have a deeper communication, to actually connect with the person you're talking to. We do this all the time where, we go to a foreign country and I'll be preaching and there'll be a translator. Mm-hmm. And I will tell jokes, or I will tell a story or something.
And it doesn't translate.
And it doesn't the translator doesn't understand. They're translating my words. The communication's there. They know what I'm saying, but because there's no deeper level of understanding, they don't they can't speak that out to the people, so no one laughs. So I
Well,
have
and even worse, sometimes it's not only not funny, but it's kind of offensive or sounds disrespectful.
exactly, and I've had that situation too where I made a joke and an individual came up to me and asked about it because it actually came across as offensive. I have a translator when we go down to Ecuador, and he lived many years in the United States. So he understands the United States ideas and understands the
Right.
jokes and stuff like that. So he and I banter back and forth even when I'm speaking and while he's translating, but I can tell a joke and then he can translate it into a joke for the people. And so I know when I say something funny or I say a joke or whatever, and he translates it and everyone laughs, I understand that got across.
Right.
And so, it's not just being able to communicate. It's being able to connect on a deeper level with your communication. Because a lot of times we talk to people all the time and we're getting nothing out of it.
Right.
We just talk back and forth.
One of the things that I love about these few pages is that it does give you the very in-depth of, how you connect with this one and how you connect with that one, all the other types. But it also gives you some real quick hit descriptor words,
Yes.
so that to tuck away in your brain and to be those touch points so that you can recognize, oh, this is where I'm seeing in this other person, I'm seeing this trait or this quality.
Right.
And so I need to adjust my communication. And I'm not going to go over all of those. Like I said, we're now on about page 13 of a 31 page
Yep.
report. Dan and I will go over these more in depth together.
Yes.
But
And
it's
when we
nice.
do a debrief, I actually go in a little more in depth over all of these
Right.
with you individually.
But it is nice because it not only gives you the very deep, fully explained understanding, it also gives you those quick hit things that if you tuck these couple of traits away in your head to remember that a D does
Right.
this and an I does this and an S does this and a C does this. Oh, I'm seeing that one quick hit thing. All right, I can alter my communication pretty quickly.
Right. So as we continue on, we're going to go to page 16. And this is, to me, one of the very important things because, the first part about it is more like understanding who you are, your style, communication style, which is amazing. Now you're going to use this style in leadership. You're going to use this style in relationships. You're going to use this style in the things that you do, not just in communication and in understanding. So this is very influenced by John Maxwell and his leadership ideas. And so this is something that is specific to the Maxwell DISC program because there are other companies and there are other people who do use DISC, but this one is specific towards the Maxwell. So this is based on leadership and personal development. So if you turn to page 17, I know those of you following at home, you're like, what's page 17? Well,
It's page 17.
is page 17, and it's the power disc. And this, again, is something that is a Maxwell trademark. This is a Maxwell thing here. And what this does is this breaks it out.
What I'm looking at, y'all, prior when we looked at those three charts, it was three charts across. And, I told you two of them looked kind of like check marks and the other one looked like an inverted check mark. This one has all, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all 7 of those traits, all
Yep.
7 of those characteristics are on a graph, and it's a bar graph.
Right.
And so you can see how high you are in each one of these characteristics compared to others.
Right.
Okay, so, and then it not only gives you the visual of the bar graph, but it also gives you quantifiers. So there's a list with all 7 of those traits, and it gives you quantifiers. And it says if you're good, if you're above average, if you're fair, if you're, all of those descriptive words. And then it gives you a paragraph on each.
Exactly.
That kind of goes a little more in depth for you.
Exactly. And again, one of the things that John talks about is that we want to really focus on your strengths and build your strengths and who you are so that those are the things that you're naturally going to be. I heard an illustration on this. You talk about, a great tennis player, and I forget who it was that they interviewed, and they asked him, they said, well, do you work on this type thing, your backhand or whatever it was? And he's like, no, because my backhand is good enough to keep me in the game. My forehand is what wins the game. And so I focus on my forehand. And I know the backhand's there, and I do work on it, but it's the forehand is the one that I focus on, because that's the thing that's going to win. And so in this power disc, it really focuses on your strengths to build you up, to make you better at what you are already doing.
Which is really counterintuitive, because most of us approach things and we go, oh man, that's a real weakness in my life. I've got to ignore my strong suits and really, really pour in to get this weakness better. No, pour into your strengths and it will counterbalance your weaknesses. Yeah.
And it actually will draw you up completely, pulls up everything.
Right.
If you pull on your strengths. And, not wanting to go into too much detail on this, because this one's kind of,
it's personal.
It's very personal.
Yeah.
But you're going to see in all these different things with that paragraph underneath how you better can lead, how you better can focus on your strength, how, you're, if you're like me, you're looking at it and going, wow, yeah, that's right. That was a lot of this for me. And for some folks, it's very even kind of across the board. For some, you're going to be real strong in some and not so strong in others. And, that's just.
Which again, that goes to who you were knit together to be. There are some people that are like crazy specialists that, I'm thinking, who was it? Edison. My grandmother grew up in the same town as Edison. And there's a story of that he would be around town and he's deep in thought. And we all know the brilliance and the genius of Thomas Edison, right? Mm-hmm. And also, he would very frequently walk around town with an umbrella in his hand while it was raining. And the umbrella was not open and not over his head because he was so deep in thought that the rain didn't even occur to him. It didn't register.
Right.
So brilliant, brilliant, brilliant mind, and also zero common sense.
Right.
So you're going to get people with those kinds of disparities on their graph, people that are a little more evenly split. So once more, I'm going to just read the 7 characteristics that this breaks out for you. It breaks out your influencing, the leading and influencing of other people. Directing. How do you direct?
Well, yeah, because directing and influencing are 2 different things.
Right.
Directing is we've got a plan in place and I'm going to direct into that plan.
Which is delegation, and it's getting people in the right places at the right time.
Right.
And
influencing is more of a come follow me type idea. So there you go. And
then processing. How well do you do processes? Guess what? I did pretty high on that one. Because processes are a thing for me. Processing is that conscientious follow through of work. Detailing. How do all the details of the puzzle fit together, right? Creating, your level of creativity, the initiation of concepts.
Right.
Persisting. Are you going to be the one that just pushes through and, as our son in the military loves to use the military phrase of embrace the suck, right?
Yep.
If it's bad, just embrace it and dig in and keep going, right?
Yep.
So you're
end game.
Yep. And then the last one is relating. How do you do in relationships with others? And that's, again, this leadership goes in your workplace, but it also goes in your family. It also goes in any community organizations that you're involved with. It goes in your friend group.
Yes.
We all know that in a friend group, there are different people who fill different roles and needs in the friend group. So this is not just about your professional life.
Yes. As we continue, you're going to go to your next page. It's going to start breaking it down a little bit more. It gives you a little more definitions of the work style and your workplace and professional style. And again, highly detailed, a lot of great information that you're going to read in here about your style. And there'll be a lot of the, and then there'll also be some stuff where you're going, okay, I need to try that. I need to put this into practice. I need to make this something that I do to see if it works, because I hadn't thought of it that way.
Well, and I'll tell you guys, one of the things that I do in January of every year is I get away for a 24-hour business planning alone time for my swim business. And some of these concepts in my workplace style characteristics, I'm going to be really taking a good look at and going, okay, in the coming year, how do I change how I handle some of my workplace stuff?
Yep.
Yes, all my clients are one-on-one, but there's back end, there's phone calls, there's emails, there are those systems and procedures that I set up. There's how I handle billing and payment.
Yep.
How do I set these things up in a way that works for who I am?
Yes. We're going to keep going. As you keep going, there's now tips. So these are simple little tips to help you, no matter what type of work environment you are in, to where you can improve on some of these things, but also make these things a better place for you. Because the last thing you want to do is go to a miserable job every day and go to a miserable work environment. So, these are things that you can help out with that do help out with that. Then there's an application guide here where it kind of breaks some things down for applying all of this. And this is where it's really good. Oh, wait.
And I love this John Maxwell quote that leads that application guide. I love it. He says, experience is not the best teacher. Evaluated experience is the best teacher.
Yep.
And this portion is going to help you evaluate the experiences that you've been through.
Yes. There's a little bit of now work as we get into some of these other pages here. The application guide, and there's some questions here, and they're not difficult, but again, it's that processing, the evaluation that you just did, and being able to put it down on paper. Because even me, and I'm more that free flow person. I don't write a lot of stuff down. I was horrible at note taking, things like that. For me, it's good to just put that down, write it out, reinforces it into your brain. But again, it's also something that as a quick guide, you can go back to.
Right.
And go, oh, what was that thing that I was thinking about? And it's right there.
One of the things I like about it too, it not only, the application guide not only includes you, it has some questions for you to answer. And then it has some questions for you to bring in somebody that's close to you. And you're going to do this in whatever environment you're applying it to. You're going to do it with a close professional colleague. You're going to do it with a spouse. You're going to do it with a family member.
Right.
Whatever realm you're looking to apply this to, you're going to pull somebody in, and it's got a section where they answer some questions.
Yep.
And then you sit down and you use those communication skills that you just learned and you have some pretty honest communication, and it's going to help both of you grow.
Yes. Basically, as we keep going here, then it's the detail analysis stuff. For those of you people who love to really just dive into understanding all about the graphs, you want to know more, you want to go more in depth, that's what this whole next few pages are.
Right.
And so it really breaks down each graph, explains it a lot better, and then it goes explaining the differences and the transitions between the graphs, all kinds of things. So you're going to get... This is a lot more of the technical stuff, but it's great to make sure you read through it once at least, so you see how it all works together.
One of the things that I loved about it, because Dan will tell you, when I first saw my graphs, I was like, wait a minute. One of these graphs is literally inverse to the other two. So do I mask that bad? Am I presenting a false person to others? And this helps you kind of digest that. My graph 1, which is the public face, which is the inverse of the other two, right? That's the very different one. My graph 1 is very different to my graph 3.
Right.
And while I was sitting here having a moment of insecurity and going, am I just, am I lying to everybody about who I really am? Is that what's going on? This helped me kind of digest that and understand that. And it says if graph 1 is different than graph 3, yes, it is. An individual may be in a period of growth and some discomfort while he or she attempts to alter behavior to meet the demands of a new environment. A person's behavior may fluctuate during this period of adjustment. And that is exactly what I've been experiencing.
Right.
We've been going through a whole bunch of transition professionally. We've been going through transition in our home. You know, within the last year, we've had one kid get married and move out.
Yep.
We've had another kid that's really advancing in his career. We've got two that are still at home, but one just turned 21 and the other's 19. And so we were actually having this discussion the other day. We are empty nesters without being empty nesters.
Right.
We have adult children living at home that are living their own lives. We're still under the same roof, but we're not connected and day to day in the same way that we once were.
Right.
And which leaves me transitioning into more of a public face for my business, more of a public face for Trim the Wick, figuring out where I fit in Trim the Wick and, you know, where it's really much more on you.
Right.
The grass being this different is understandable. It's not that I'm being false.
Right.
It's that I'm in a place where I'm trying again to publicly find the balance of the stuff that needs to be done, the demands.
Right.
And also who I am and figure that out. And clearly that massive change in my primary personal identifier, that C, that massive change means I need to do a better job at letting that come through publicly.
Yep.
And now I'm aware of that.
Yeah.
And it's not so much that I'm being fake, it's that I haven't found a balance yet.
Right.
Of how to be fully that. So again, this stuff does a great job at pointing out growth points, showing you where you are, giving you some of the whys and wherefores of why you are where you are, and then helping give you some tools for growth.
Yep. And as you keep going, we're going to keep going through the report here. The next few pages, these are the exercise pages that Becky was talking about earlier, where you're going to actually have someone come alongside you and answer some questions, and you're going to answer some more questions yourself. And then the thing that everyone loves, the action plan. But this is great because, you know, we should all be putting together a PDP for ourselves, a personal development plan, an action plan for ourselves, because as people, usually we grow by experience when we're younger. And usually by the time we hit our 20s, early 20s, get through college, we stop growing because we think we can just do it like we used to.
I learned the things.
We just
now I just do the things.
And it's
right?
just whatever I walk up to, it's just going to be that soaking in like a sponge. Well, you no longer are soaking in like a sponge. So you really need to make sure that you are setting yourself up, that you're making a development plan for yourself, an action plan, so that you're learning, I should say, and you're gaining knowledge in who you are and what you can do, and you continue to grow and grow and grow. Going again back to the John Maxwell on this, you know, he's 77 years old and he constantly says, I'm still learning every day. He makes it a thing that every day he adds value to people. He's going to do something for someone and he's going to learn something every day. And if we can get into a rut and before we know it, we're 10, 15 years, we're in our 30s, in our 40s, and we're looking around going, what happened? You know, and you haven't grown anymore than when you were 25, 26. So
basically what you're talking about is changing it from having that external motivation to grow, right? Because our parents told us to grow. We were put in a school system and the school system said, hey, you have to pass these tests. And then we get out of that system and we're on our own and we just relax and think we've arrived.
Yep.
No, now it's just we should have matured to the point where we take over and now it becomes an internal motivation to grow instead of an external.
Exactly. So the next few pages are your action plan. And here's, if we were doing this and I would go through the debrief with you, I would just highlight this and just show you what it is. But this is something that I would go in more in depth with you in a coaching situation. So if I was going to be your personal life coach or your professional coaching, is that this action plan would be something that for the next 30 days, 60 days, even 90 days, we would be working on to make sure that you're growing, that you're building yourself up so that you can put all the things in place that are talked about here.
If you do the disc and the debrief, this is kind of where Dan would turn this over to you and go pages 29 through 31. This is on you.
Right.
Internal motivation. Keep it going. Look through it. Make your own personal development plan and rock with it. But if you want help,
Yes.
walking through that and really pinning that down and creating that plan for yourself, and then having some accountability walking through it for, like you said, 30, 60, or 90 days.
Right.
You can do that follow-on coaching.
Correct.
So
that is it. That is the basic DISC plan. There is, again, we did not actually even cover everything in it. There is a
because some
lot
of it does
more.
get pretty personal.
Yep.
when you're talking about really diving into an analysis of who you are at the very core of your being. I'll be open with you guys, but I'm not going to be that open with you guys.
Exactly. So if you were to do this, we would do the debrief and we would go into it. We usually take about an hour or so and go through it with you so that you can know yourself better, so you can grow yourself, so that you can then step into who God's called you to be and who you are destined to be.
Yeah.
That, and have that purpose and meaning and fulfillment, not just in your business life, not just in your family life, but in your personal life. I think this is a great thing, and I'm really looking forward to helping a lot of people with this.
So if you're interested, if this has whet your appetite and you're kind of like, I can take a simple 10-minute test to get that kind of information about myself to help improve literally every relationship I'm in my life, and to help me understand others and to help others understand me better, and to walk forward in who I was created to be.
Yeah.
And, oh, by the way, I'm kind of in a funk and I'm not sure that I was created to be much worth anything. And then encouragement would be a good thing about now. This is a great place to start. So the links to purchase a disc and debrief for yourself are right on our website at trimthewick.com.
Yes, you can go to trimthewick.com and then you can click on the leadership pages, and that will take you also to the disc pages where you can purchase it. Now, I got something special also, is that not only do we do this for individuals, I also will do this for an entire office staff or a team. So if you're a manager or an owner of a business and you would like to have all of the employees of your business to go through this process and also learn better communication, be able to do better in task orienting, do better in achieving the goals and the vision that you have set out as the owner of the business, I can do this for your entire office staff.
Yep.
And so you'll see an opportunity there to email me and let me know what you're looking at doing and what you would like to do. We could do this for as small as 3 to 4 in an office staff, or as many as 100 to 500.
Right.
It's
scalable.
It's scalable to no matter what size business you have, and we would love to help you, come alongside you, and work with you to help your people
build a good team,
and reach the goals and the vision of the business. All right. Well, we know that this is a much longer than normal, but we think this is a great way to start 2025. Becky, I'm looking forward to you working on your stuff and getting to know you even stronger in the days to come.
And now we both have DISC assessments to play off of. And, that's the fun thing, is that we've been married for 33 years.
Yep.
There's still stuff to learn about each other.
Yes, there is. So, all right, guys, we thank you so much for hanging out with us again this week, and we look forward to seeing you guys next week. Take a step forward every day. Until next time.